Andrea Suarez from WeHeart Seattle, somebody that's been on the ground for years and years and years, basically going around to a homeless person addicted to drugs and alcohol and saying, do you want help? We will help you. Do you want to get out of this tent? Do you want to get out of this life? We will help you. Come with us. We will get you treatment. We will get you away from this. Do you want help? That is your that's your elevator speech for years and years and years. And when you're not doing that, you're picking up garbage.
They go hand in hand. The trash builds the trust, and then we triage people to services with a focus on treatment first.
Jonathan Choe, to the left of me, but certainly to the right of probably Andrea and myself, is the guy that every politician never wants to see. It's not because he's got open-toed shoes. It's because, well, one, he looks like the Unabomber today, and two, Choe's always like, you said this, you're not doing that, why are you not doing it? When Katie Wilson first got elected and Choe shows up, they pushed him out of the way. Choe's like, I have a right to be here. I'm part of the press. In fact, you're right now involved in a lawsuit with Ari Hoffman and Brandy Cruz because the Democrats in Olympia don't want you there asking questions because you're not a legitimate journalist. You work for, what, the Discovery Institute? So they don't think of you as a journalist. So they don't want you to ask questions, Joe.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm a political independent for the record, and I also contribute to Newsmax as the Seattle Bureau reporter and Turning Point USA as an investigative reporter there. So I wear a lot of different caps.
Yes. Sometimes backwards, sometimes forward. But more importantly, here's the way I sort of see your stuff. You're the guy that goes, okay, the mainstream, whatever direction that the news media is taking, the basic narrative. And so often in the state of Washington, it's like they're just transcribing the press release. So you look at it and you go, okay, well, this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense. You hold somebody accountable for what they said. You said this, but the actions are doing this. So why is that, right? But often they're just pushing you out of the way. They don't want to hear from you. You're making them be accountable for the words.
Yeah, it's a job of what journalists are supposed to be doing. But in this city, as we know, the entire mainstream media landscape's been decimated. We barely have reporters now working in newsrooms. So we have what's called press release journalism, right? That's when, a politician sends out a sheet of paper with talking points and expects the reporters to parrot those. Well, I don't do that.
Yeah.
And if you haven't noticed, Katie Wilson really hasn't had a press conference yet after nearly 2 months in office at City Hall where the reporters can just ask questions freely. So what I have to do is show up to public events and ambush her and confront her.
Yeah.
And that's what happened recently.
Can we play a little bit of that?
Okay. We're getting you, Andy. Hang on. Jeez, Choe. Here we go. All right. So what's happening? Is there music? Sound? Let's see. Hang on. Back it up. Let's back it up. Back it up. And let's play the music, too, or the sound or whatever else is included in this. Joe, what do you got? You're making Choe's work look bad.
Hey, Mayor Wilson, are you aware that the woman you referenced with the 3 dogs in your state of the city
we were able to identify a spot for her in a tiny house village.
is now back on the streets?
Why did you use me as an example?
She says the tiny house had mold in it.
The place was riddled in mold.
Do you know what happened there, Mayor Wilson? Can you just give us an explanation of what happened there? There was also a sweep this morning in Ballard.
There's nowhere to go. They just push us around.
You said sweeps don't work in your state of the city.
And we cannot just keep moving people from place to place and calling that progress.
So I just wanted to know how much longer you plan on sweeping or if anything is going to change from the Herald administration. Do you have any comment on that, Mayor? Thoughts?
She seems to be moving through quicksand. All right. Here's as somebody that endorsed her because I wanted to see socialism. She did run on, I am not going to do what Harold's doing, right? And she was even asked about it. This was the big thing. What are you going to do? What are you going to do with sweeps? Are you going to sweep them out? What are you going to do? Right?
Homeless people be allowed to stay in tents in parks? Major Harold.
No.
Candidate Wilson.
This is hard for a yes or no question. I'm going to pass on this one. I can't really answer yes or no.
Okay. So she doesn't want to answer yes or no because she realizes this is really where the rubber meets the road. Because does somebody have the right to sit there in a public park? Does somebody have the right to do drugs and do a variety of other things in a public park? Bruce said no, and everybody went after him because everybody in Seattle has a tremendous amount of compassion, but not a lot of common sense. So now it looks like, Andrea Suarez from WeHeart Seattle, that Katie Wilson is following the plan of Bruce Harrell.
It's a rinse and repeat of what we've seen in the last 4 years, for sure.
Well, what else does she have? What other options would she do?
Well, Based on my experience over 5 years, half the people that are in those encampments have housing. Crystal had housing. Any social outreach worker will tell you people have housing or had housing. And so we have to have a new plan for the service resistant. And she needs to answer that question. Former Mayor Harold didn't have an answer either. And for argument's sake, keep people in the parks. Okay, keep people in the parks, except for no drugs in parks. And then you have to start talking about the drugs. And she didn't mention drugs once in her State of the City address, which was very disappointing.
If you want to see what it looks like, follow Jonathan's work from the Discovery Institute when he goes down to the Central District or goes to the CD, right, down Chinatown. And you've driven around in those, and you walk around down there. They know who you are. Some people hate you down there and threaten you. Other people just know who you are. And you're just like, bro, I'm just asking questions. What's going on? They moved everybody from the Third, from the Blade, down into Pioneer Square. And then from Pioneer Square, people complained about there. So they just pushed them down into Chinatown. Yeah,
it's called a containment zone strategy. What happened under Bruce Harrell's administration, especially towards the tail end with the big events like MLB, All-Star Game, and so on and so forth, is they wanted to keep the downtown tourist corridors clean. But the problem is all these men and women who are addicted to drugs and doing fentanyl have to go somewhere. So they ended up in Chinatown ID. They ended up in Belltown. They ended up in the deep woods. They ended up in the parks nearby. And we're seeing the same thing with Katie Wilson happening right now. There's absolutely no new strategy. And as Andrea said, it's rinse and repeat. And I'm seeing the same men and women on the streets who've been there now for several years. And I'm asking them, are you being given any type of new housing, shelter? And they're like, yeah, we're just being offered the shelter. And again, these are the congregate shelters. Mm-hmm. Let me be very clear. These are the ones where you have to go in and share a room or, an area with another person. Nobody wants to go into that. They want tiny houses. They want apartments. But the problem is now you have people who've developed an attitude of entitlement. At what point is enough enough?
Well, I got to say, just to sort of cut down the center here, you got Katie Wilson, and here is the problem that she is facing. There are people on the far left that actually will say to you with a straight face, well, that's their choice. That's their autonomy. They are living by their choices. And who are we to judge that they want to shoot up drugs and sit on the streets? So that's part of the people that helped get her elected. Right. And then all of a sudden she realizes, holy crap, I got all these people coming in for the big soccer match and everything. I got to do something about this. Then she has to turn to funding. Where are you going to get the funding in order to be able to get the people that are resistant? What are you going to do? We take them off the street, just stick them in a tiny house and have them die and be found 3 or 4 days later. So she doesn't have the funding on the right. She doesn't have the support from the people on the left who say, well, you can live this way if you want to live this way. And who are we to determine where you crap? Right. So she's stuck.
She is stuck.
Because you haven't built an alliance one way or the other on this. So now she's right down the middle and just allowing the thing to continue in the direction it was going previously.
Yeah, the open air use of fentanyl and methamphetamines in our parks and shared spaces is out of control, and it is dangerous for people who live here year round. And yes, it's great to use an event to provide some extra care, but I don't know how you're going to do it unless you make crime illegal again and actually enforce the open air use and the loitering laws that we have in place.
Are you following Reset in San Francisco?
Yes, I am, and I love that program.
Yes.
100%. The sheriffs are in charge of the diversion program, as it should be.
That's going to work, right?
Yes,
I mean, I can't poke any holes in it.
But so what Joe's talking about is no more, well, we're going to stay here. It's you have a choice. You either go get treatment or you go to jail. Mm-hmm. Very similar thing they did in Marysville. Does that work in Marysville, Choe? Do you happen to know?
It is definitely going in the right direction. But the problem here in Seattle is that we have City Attorney Erica Evans, who campaigned on refusing to prosecute for open-air drug use, laws that are already on the books, by the way, or prosecute for illegal camping. So that's the problem. And guess what? Word gets out on the street. The homeless drug addicts watch the news. They listen to your show, John, and they know that Seattle, once again, is free-addle, lawless, and a very permissive city. So I'm now talking to people who have recently moved here from South King County, from Auburn, from Kent, from Renton, also from places like Everett and Tacoma. Yeah. Let that sink in.
Yeah, well, you predicted that 3 or 4 months ago. You said when they cut down in Burien, they're going to come in. They're coming in from Auburn, wherever. Because listen, if you just you're going to follow incentives. The incentive is you can come to Seattle, you can do whatever you want. Nobody's going to hassle you. And the drugs are really cheap and they're very available. And the cops aren't going to bother. You can do whatever you want to do. Mm-hmm. So this problem will get bigger and bigger. I also predicted before the New Year's, I said the people from San Francisco that don't want those two choices. You're going to have three choices. Go to jail, go to treatment, or go to Seattle. You'll see, and Oregon also cut back on their funding for homelessness. So it's all going to be collecting here in Seattle. What advice do you have, both of you, since you sort of have a completely different political point of view than Katie Wilson? What would you tell her to do if she were ever to call you guys by mistake?
Well, first and foremost, follow what San Francisco is doing with the Reset program, 1. 2, champion a similar proposition that San Francisco did a few years ago called Prop F, which required people to pass a urinary analysis for illegal substances to come into the city and get services. That stops the inflow.
Yeah.
That's a huge one.
I asked her about that, and she felt there was an invasion of privacy. All right.
No.
So that you're saying look to what may be working and follow that, because what you have now is not working.
Yep.
I want to quickly say we all want Mayor Wilson to succeed at the end of the day, because if she does well, the city does well. But my advice to her simply is start talking to all sides, because she's only talking to one right now, and we have ideas, we have solutions, and clearly the current plan is not working. We want to help.
Do you think you would do better approaching her? I mean, I know that you're trying to be respectful, but as soon as you go up on her, she's immediately, people try to get in front of you, Choe, and try to stop you.
You asked for a meeting, didn't you?
Yeah, answer my emails. It's that simple. I gave her more than 24 hours to respond before my latest story exposing what happened with Crystal and the 3 dogs. And I said, please, can you just explain what happened? Crystal claims that there was mold in this tiny house you placed her in. She says the city didn't give any alternatives. I asked a few questions, no response. That's why I have to go ambush her. It's the only way. It's the only way to hold these elected officials accountable.
But you know, here you are. You're the mayor, right? So somebody in your communications department says, okay, here's a story about this woman, Crystal. She's got 3 kids. We put her in a tiny house. Things are good. She's not. Is she going down there and checking out the tiny house?
She should talk to people who know what's going on the ground instead of coming in as the mayor and phoning a friend and getting her a tiny house in front of many other people that were probably in line for that.
Okay.
What if we could help set up like a round table?
Yes, please.
I'm down. I'm down. If Mayor Wilson's listening, I want to sit down with her. Let's have a round table. Bring your team, I'll bring my team, and let's talk.
And an understanding that everyone there at that table wants the same thing. Right. You have to disregard the people that are coming from the position that this is your choice to live this way, that's your autonomy, and that your true self is to live in squalor and shoot drugs. I don't think those people deserve to be at the table, because let's face it, that's not compassion, right? Just quickly, how's Sound Transit enjoying the homeless situation?
What about it? I mean, they're not running because there's no wires in place.
Yeah. Copper wire.
So how do they steal the stuff, and what do they end up doing with it?
They steal it. They take it nearby a metal recycle center, and they strip it using various tools and devices and turn it in. We also found a boneyard of about, 50 propane tanks where the brass fittings were all stripped out.
At least, that was probably like 150.
Mm-hmm. And that's the 3rd or 4th time we found these huge basins of disposed tanks. And the Olympia had an opportunity to champion legislation to hold the metal scrapper buyers accountable, and they didn't. And that's really where we have to go with all of this, is upstream, holding people more accountable.
Well, yeah, until you stop that, you're still going to be able to continue to get cash and then go back and cash it in for drugs. Well, so what's your next story, Joe? What do you got?
I'll be following Andrea, and this weekend she'll be cleaning up a church in South Seattle where there's a massive encampment. And I think there's going to be a positive outcome. So that's a quick little preview here.
Wow.
Call to action tomorrow, 10 to noon, Martin Luther King Way. Look us up at WeHeartSeattle.org for the address. It's going to be the most meaningful cleanup we have ever done in 5 years, and we will see that story and outcome on Sunday. You
can follow Choe, Discovery Institute, plus you can also find him on Instagram and just about anywhere else that fine slides are sold. Andrea Suarez from WeHeart Seattle. That's your call to action tomorrow. Both of you stay safe. We'll see if we can get Katie Wilson's people to sit down with you, and you got good ideas, right?
Yes, we do.
All right, good. Thank you, Choe.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay.